So our team decided to focus on the company Boeing. My name is Maggie, and I'll be talking a little bit today about the background of Boeing's bad decision as well as what that decision led to. So after 2 years of existence, Boeing's 737 MAX had 2 crashes. This raised a lot of attention because crashes are not typical for such a new aircraft. At this time, Boeing was using older technology and materials than its competitors. It is believed that these crashes were caused by faulty sensors in the 737 MAX. During this time, competitors were putting a lot of pressure on Boeing by creating more fuel-efficient and tech-savvy planes. This led Boeing to have to choose between creating a new plane or advancing the 737 MAX with the times. Of course, creating a whole new plane was going to be a lot more expensive for Boeing. Boeing decided to upgrade their 737 MAX by using different engines and changing the location of the engines. Although these new engines were supposed to boost the 737 MAX's fuel efficiency, they also led to pitching. Pitching's when the nose of the plane moves up and down, and you can kind of see that in the graphic I have there for you. To counteract pitching, Boeing installed a new autopilot system. This system would sense when the nose of the plane was getting too high and then lower it. But this is what is believed to cause at least one of the 737 MAX to crash.
Hello, this is Danny Ramirez speaking. Here's a quick look at the 6-step decision-making process. And I'm going to talk about how our group went about the process with Boeing. Boeing's biggest competitor is Airbus, which is the world's other major aircraft manufacturer. In the spring of 2011, American Airlines, an exclusive Boeing customer, was ready to place an order for hundreds of fuel-efficient jets from Airbus. The chief executive of American Airlines called Boeing's leader, James McNerney, to tell him that Boeing would need to move aggressively to keep their business. In 2014, Airbus designed a new fuel-efficient jet, the A320neo. Boeing felt that they needed to counter Airbus's move to maintain their competitive advantage over them and keep the American Airlines account. However, Boeing was months behind Airbus and had to play catch-up. At this point, Boeing really only had 2 options. Alternative 1 being start a brand new design from scratch, or alternative 2 being keep its classic 737 model and upgrade it to the 737 MAX. Let's take a deeper look at each of these strategies. Looking at alternative 1, building a brand new model would be expensive. Boeing's last model built from scratch, the 787, cost them about $32 billion. The new model would also require retraining of flight crews and maintenance teams. However, since they would be starting from scratch, it would be much easier for development teams to fix safety issues, and they wouldn't be nearly as rushed as they were with developing the 737 MAX. Looking at alternative 2, upgrading the 737 to the 737 MAX would also be a lot cheaper than building a new model. It would also take less time to develop, 6 years instead of 10 years required for the brand new model. However, safety issues would be much harder to fix, which proved to be the case with the 737 MAX. A multitude of issues in the upgrading process caused the 737 to have a tendency to pitch up. Developers tried to fix this with an automatic technology system to pitch it back down, but a faulty sensor led to a crash.
And I'm Jackson Capel here to take over for where Danny left off with selecting the best solution. Alternative 1, creating a new model, is what we decided would be the best course of action for Boeing in this situation. System upgrades are basically just a procrastination in our opinions. We are seeing that in the long run you are going to have to create a new airplane regardless of if this system update works or not. So you're just investing money in something to put off the inevitable, which is creating a new model of plane. And technology is advancing at such a fast rate that if, say, Airbus comes up with a new software update, we would have to either adapt to that and adjust to their software, or we would have to create a new plane to get more advanced than them and get the corner in the market. And adding on to this is new planes are a lot easier to market to a layman than it would be a software update. So we could go to airlines and say, we have the next great thing, the 777, which we can pitch to the public as the most economically sound, most environmentally friendly. You can take as many people as you would like. It's a lot easier on worldwide travel. That's a lot easier to sell. The marketing campaign basically sells itself in that case, as opposed to a software update, which is not quite as appealing to the public. Replacing planes is a guaranteed solution. A system upgrade may or may not work. We know that if we build a new plane, it will be the cutting edge, and all the technology and these pitch issues that we have would be able to be circumvented. And these billion-dollar decisions should not be based on a hunch that this software update is going to fix our problems. Once this decision is made, it's implemented in these steps. Step 1, a decision to create a new model is made at the Boeing International Headquarters in Chicago. Once this happens, it's passed on to the Commercial Airplanes Division in Seattle, Washington. And this is where the Technical Fellowship Program, which consists of Boeing's top engineers and scientists, design the aircraft. From here, the production begins in facilities in Everett, in Renton, Washington, and in North Charleston, South Carolina, which is where these planes are built and then sent on their way to airlines that choose to purchase them. The follow-up for this decision, so in real life, obviously Boeing went with the software updates as opposed to building a new plane, and the financial repercussions to this were huge. So the 2 crashes were drastically detrimental to Boeing's stock prices, and following the March 2019 crash, Boeing's stock fell 15%, which equates to $37 billion. And this was all over the course of 1 month. So in 1 month, they lost as much money as it would have cost just to build the new plane. And this isn't even tying into the public relations nightmare that's created, where 2 crashes now associated Boeing's name with unsafe air travel. And this was something they had to unravel through marketing expertise and integrating their new ideologies and safety procedures into their everyday ventures. Choosing shortcuts proved to be costly. So in the long run, choosing to save a penny here ended up costing us $1 down the road. So this was something that caused major issues for Boeing, and the biggest of that being 346 people lost their lives due to these crashes. This is not something to overlook. There's no money you can put on a human being's life, and it turns out that 157 of them probably could have been avoided had Boeing chose to address the sensor issues from the first crash, but they didn't take it as seriously as they probably should have, and this possibly could have caused a result of 157 lives lost. And this is what we believe they should have done, is create the new plane.
Alright, so my name is Ryan Schlegel, and I'll be picking up where Jackson left off on our final decision. So our final decision statement is that Boeing will develop a brand new model that will meet all safety requirements and compete with their competitors in class and fuel efficiency. So after breaking down the 6-step process, we thought that this was the best decision because number 1, it meets all safety requirements. Number 2, it will allow them to compete with their competitors in class and fuel efficiency. And number 3, it only would have taken an extra 4 years to develop. So in the long run, that's not a lot of time, and Boeing would have had a whole new fleet of planes that they could build their business off of. So in recent news, Boeing, after the failed 737 plane, Boeing developed a new plane called the 777X. These are some of the specs for the new plane. As you can see, it's pretty expensive, but it is a lot bigger, which allows it to be more fuel efficient. So we can only assume that during the time of the decision, that if Boeing would have decided to develop a new plane instead of upgrade the previous one, that the new plane would have looked something like the 777X. So we can kind of base this new model and say this is what they would have done in the past. So with this project, we learned a lot about making decisions and how to work as a team. So to start off, what we learned, decisions. Sometimes the best decisions are not the cheapest ones. Boeing was faced with the decision to spend all this money and make new planes, or not spend as much and just upgrade their planes, and ultimately that costed Boeing lives. So sometimes the cheapest decisions aren't the best ones. Number 2, safety should be the number 1 priority. This seems pretty obvious, but in Boeing's case it wasn't. So just make sure that when making a decision that it's not going to put lives in jeopardy. And then lastly, all businesses should use the 6-step process when making decisions. We really found the 6-step process helpful just because it allowed us to break down every process of the decision making process essentially, and get all the information and evaluate all the information and compact it into one visual where you can see everything and choose, decision one or decision two, and just being able to visually see the decisions with all the information about them made it much easier to make the decision. So definitely all businesses should use the 6-step process when making decisions, just because it's easy to break down the decision. So what we learned working as a team, you can communicate only via technology for projects. In the current situation going on, we unfortunately weren't able to meet face to face, so we use technology a lot to communicate. And to kind of go off that, we found that text group chats work the best for fast and efficient communication. Everybody always has their phone on them, so you can respond to our team. So we just made a team group chat, and everybody's asking questions, and you can efficiently respond, and in a good amount of time. That's a lot faster than emails. So we found that text group chats work the best for communication. And lastly, we found that it's best to make a plan. Before we even started, we made a plan, mapped out everybody's strengths and weaknesses and what they're good at, and kind of divided the slides up to where everybody had a portion of slides to do and record. And the magic thing about the plan is that when it all comes together, it's done. So everybody did their part, and we were able to get this project done, even with the current situation going on in the world. So always make a plan first. It was just easy for everybody to base their work off the plan and have something written out with all the requirements that they need to do to achieve success for this project. So that's the wrap of our Boeing project and decisions making. Here's a quick look at our works cited page with all of our sources. And yep, thank you. Bye.